Okay, breaking news. This is Yalçin Yalman. He filmed the famous Turkey UFO footage over 2007, 2009. And this is him in a breaking interview where this man, Owner Boskin, translates between Yalçin Yalman and Jimmy and his co-host on the UAP Studies podcast. So it's Jimmy. I've actually been on the UAP Studies podcast and so glad he found this. I'm super pumped. Why? So Jimmy explains in this Substack a few days ago what happened to Yalcin because I couldn't find him. Chris Lehto, LehtoFiles tried to find him and make a documentary about him. He went to Turkey to speak with witnesses, hoping to track down the elusive Yalcin, but never managed to find him. Yalcin had largely stayed off popular social media platforms and continued with his life. I made several videos on Turkey UFO, and to be honest, I was disappointed after going there, right? I mean, this video I took a ton of time, ton of money, ton of work, only has 26,000 views. So this is Kumburgaz Beach, the same beach that Yalçin Yalman took the footage. And I walked this whole beach with my daughter and asked all these people. It was super awkward. A lot of people did not want to talk to an American podcaster at all. Super awkward. And at the end, I actually found the site where he was filming. Yalçin said his father was a retired colonel, and he actually owned one of the sites in this location. And the people there really did not want to talk to me at all. They basically ran, essentially, and it was super awkward, yeah. But I'm so happy that something came out of this, finally. I was waiting. It's been many months, almost a year, but something did come out of it. I'm super stoked that Jimmy found Yalcin and got the interview. It was tough to get out to Kumburgaz, and to be honest, I would go somewhere else. There's many beautiful places in Turkey. I would go somewhere else besides Kumburgaz, for sure. Sorry to people that live in Kumburgaz or go there for vacation. There's many nicer places, and it's difficult to get to. I had to rent a car. I was able to bring my family, so kind of connect it with a vacation, but even without that, it was difficult and expensive to get there. So I'm just ecstatic that something came out of it. Yalcin came out of the woodwork. I don't know if that was accidental or by mistake or synchronous. Maybe someone tipped him off. He was getting looked to. Either way, I feel like I poked the bear, and I'm happy this came out of it. So let's get to the actual summary of what he says, and it's amazing. He makes some amazing claims in this. Especially stick to the end. He basically says locations and dates of where we'll see 2 giant spacecraft. That's what he says. It's just amazing. Thanks for being here. Please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and you'll get more content like this. Chris Lehto, welcome to LehtoFiles. So an overall big summary before I go line through line is Yalman's interest in UFOs began at age 12. He had vivid dreams and astral journeys. So he talks about encountering beings he says are from the Zeta Reticuli star system. At age 14, he had a dream involving these beings where he's in Kumburgaz and found himself under a tree. Then nothing happened for 6 years. At age 20, during his military service, he heard whispers and saw a hexagonal craft in the sky that said, "Follow me." As far as sightings and footage in Kumburgaz, Turkey, he captured UFO footage between 2007 2009, including hexagonal and triangular crafts and humanoid figures inside the crafts. His footage has been validated by Turkish authorities and scientists, including TÜBİTAK. It's like the tech government arm in Turkey. Yalman used a Canon XL1 mini DV camera with 16 times optical zoom and later a Sony Handycam with a telescoping lens. He faced financial difficulties and homelessness, affecting his ability to continue his work. That's even before the videos and after. After receiving a vision to buy a camera, he was broke, but still forced his financial situation and bought the camera. He started filming in 2007, and the first night, he says, his first footage was confirmed as legitimate by a pilot. So a random person, he says, appears throughout his life, says, "Hey, you need to go buy a camera." And that night, he went and filmed. When he films, he feels like he's under hypnosis, told to go look over here and film over here. How did he feel? We'll look into that, but was later stunned by his recordings. So let's go line by line through the actual interview. Again, link to the full interview is in the description. You can hear it all for yourself. It's worth watching. Hour and 12 minutes. It is amazing. Okay, so I'll have his footage playing there. This is later footage from 2009 where you can see supposed beings in there. They actually ask about that. He says, yes, those were beings. Okay, so let's get started. So right away, he says he's actually been in astral contact with these beings, and he says in his dreams, etc., he has the idea that they're 45 centimeters tall. In one of these visions, he's actually up in a spacecraft and he can see the Earth under his craft. Now he's 66 years old. In the dream, he saw an X-ray machine above his head, and they told him he was chosen for the mission to really share this information with humanity. At 14 years old, he had a dream with the beings in Kumburgaz, and he was under a tree in Kumburgaz. Then after that, he didn't see anything more until his Askerlik, his military service, when he was 20. So during his military service, 15 months, the first 4 months, he was hearing whispers in his mind, but he was inside, so he couldn't look up to the sky. But after 4 months, he was deployed to the eastern part of Turkey. And while he's outside on guard duty, he had a bell ringing in his mind. And he saw a hexagonal craft in the sky that said, "Follow me." So then the interviewers kind of interrupt him in the story. If I did interview him, I would just let him talk through his whole account just in one sitting and then ask questions after. So I'm not really sure what happened here. I'd like to know more about that. His story, he says, is about beings from Zeta Reticuli, and they are protecting Yalman from the Orion reptilians. So reptilians that come from, I guess, the Orion constellation. But he says he was told by the Zeta Reticulans. That's interesting because isn't that the same thing Bob Lazar said, Zeta Reticuli? After 10 years, there was nothing related to them. During this time, he was basically broke and homeless as a nomad. He traveled all around Turkey. Then finally in 2007, he heard, "Go back to your home and we will find you." So he went back to Kumburgaz. His father was a retired colonel and owned one of those buildings, like a retirement building. Apparently Kumburgaz was nicer in the past, maybe. Not sure. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but I wouldn't go there on my own. It was very difficult to get to. Driving through Istanbul, terrible, amazingly terrible traffic. Literally like worse than LA traffic. It's very expensive to rent a car. And then, yeah, it just wasn't easy. It was right near a highway. Okay, so continuing on. Yalman said a random person who comes and goes in his life he doesn't think is real because he couldn't track him down ever, came to him and said, "Hey, go and buy a camera." So he doesn't think this person exists. Sometimes he appears to him, but he can't ever find him. Yalcin also said that he has a chip in his leg. He believes he has a chip in his leg. I would ask more questions about this. What about the chip in the leg? Because he does mention Dr. Lear in this video. And Dr. Lear was into implants, etc. So the guy says buy a camera. He forces his financial position, buys a camera. That was in 2007, and then walks out and takes the first video, shooting the craft and the beings. Let me bring up that video. Okay, so this is the video. He says that night he just walks out there and he gets kind of point outs where to aim it. He aims it, and then he's able to video it. First night. And so after that, every night he went and video from 3:30 to 6:30. He asked a pilot about the video, and said, "Hey, what is this?" And the pilot said it was legitimate. He also said, some people said it was a cruise ship, but Tuvitak and Roger Jaime Malson, he mentioned Jaime, unfortunately, Italian researchers said it was legit. First camera he used, he explains this stuff, was a Canon XL, 16 times optics. I'm guessing this. Later, he used a Sony Handycam and set up a telescoping lens. Kind of on his own, I think he kind of invented it. After that, he had diabetic issues, which slowed down his research. And that's one of the main debunk arguments, is that this is like inside of a lens element. But why he'd be moving around like that, not in relation to other things, doesn't make sense. He says he wants to share the info and study it until he dies. Jimmy asked, "How did you feel when you first saw it?" And he said initially didn't feel anything when he first started shooting. He's kind of, numb to it or in shock. So he felt like he was under hypnosis, But later on, however, when he looked at more and more of his videos, kept getting footage and people said, "Hey, that's legitimate," he said he was stunned to believe, hey, this could actually be aliens. So in 2008, he says he was shooting at a friend's wedding. He thought it was Venus, so he zoomed in, but it was metal. Footage was 42 minutes long, and it was his best footage. So let's bring up that one. Yeah, I recognize this one. It's amazing. It's a 52-minute long video from 2008. He says it's best footage, so I'll leave that one up. I think it is. I mean, look at that. That's amazing. Could it be something on the ground in the distance, on the other side of the Bosphorus? That does not look like it. Could it be like streetlights bent? Seems amazing to me. Why would it be there alone? And it's even more compelling when he films the moon in the same footage. Okay, continuing on. In 2008, Yalcin says under the water in Kumburgaz, 4 lights came up to the surface. And then they joined into a ball above the surface and then went up to the craft. That's quite interesting, because Martin Willis, I know he's asked, what are they doing there? Are they getting something from the Bosphorus, One day in 2009, Kumburgaz was with a friend. He heard a slight noise saying, "Look over here." And he saw a cylindrical craft, but the other people didn't see it around. He asked the other people around. He did say there was one other friend there who did see it. And Yalman said the craft was writing WXWY in yellow lights underneath it. I kind of get the impression like projecting it. Okay, then interviewers asked, what are the types of crafts you see? And when I listen in Turkish, I understand some Turkish, right? I was relatively fluent in it. He gives a lot more descriptions than comes across. So I think there is a lot of information lost in the translation here. Obviously, this guy's doing real-time translating, which is the most difficult. So if anyone is really fluent in Turkish, if you could write down, what are his descriptions of the lights, that would be great. Because I heard lights in there, and so I don't know what he was talking about. I'm trying to give an idea that maybe it was changing or you get weird, different effects. But he said the craft was 60 degrees off the horizon, so not close to the horizon. In that case, it could not have been some sort of ship, cruise ship, or weird water effect looking across water, some sort of optical illusion. He also believes it was 60 meters across, and he said was releasing like a crystal or something below it. Didn't really understand that part either, if you know Turkish and can explain it. He goes on, between 2008 and 2009, he continuously received information that he was being protected by the Zeta Reticuli system beings. He's being protected from the Orion beings who wished to harm Yalcin. He said he knew they would be there for his protection, so he says they were there every night, is what he was told. When he was 14 years old, beings told him there was a colony on the far side of the moon, so the dark side. Orion and Zeta Reticuli beings were there together. And I think he even mentioned Insan, so I think he mentioned humans as well. I don't know, again, if anyone picks up anything he said that wasn't translated, let us know in the comments. He says they have been here since ancient times and will continue to direct and show us the way in the future. After he moved from Kumburgaz to Çanakkale, all the people there gave him equipment, and he released a lot of this new footage on his social media. So apparently he's still doing it. He's been doing it, and he has a lot of footage on his new social media. So I asked for links, etc. After 7 years, he made observations. Many witnesses came with him to see the objects. So supposedly he has many people that came with him, didn't believe him maybe. And yesterday he said there was a huge craft event. So they asked, when was the last thing he filmed? And again, I think it was basically kind of lost in translation. But he said after 2009, he had family issues and went to prison due to his friend. So he said his friend was a business partner, forced him to have some legal issues, right? So this is, of course, debunkers are going to have a field day with this, right? He was homeless. He had issues with prison with his friends. I will say I've been to Turkey. I spent 3 years living in Turkey, and yeah, life is just a lot harder there than in the West. I will say, yeah, it's just a lot harder when you see people complaining about what they have in the West, and then the people I was, friends with really in the East. I mean, they had literally nothing. They heated themselves by burning oil from used car engines. It was amazing. Amazing people, though. Love Turkey. He was also in hospital due to epilepsy. So he talks about a story, Yalcin does. He felt like he was about to die, and he was getting an IV where they were taking blood. And he stood up and said, "They're the beings." He showed it to the person, I believe his doctor there. And he says they also saw the beings. So after 2023, he said he started seeing more sightings. So after 2023 or at the end of 2023, because in Turkish, it's kind of weird. You do up to and after is kind of the same word from what I remember. I just remember in Turkish class, we had this huge issue with, did it happen or is it about to happen? So until and after, I think, are like the same word. So it could be in 2023 or towards the end of 2023, you started seeing more sightings, or it'd be in 2024, but I think they would have said 2024. So anyway, he had more dreams, and the beings told him an ancient spacecraft was under Mount Nemrut. Okay, this just kind of blew me away. Yeah, couldn't believe it, because I've actually been to Mount Nemrut, took my family there, and it is just an insane place. I mean, Mount Nemrut is unbelievable, right? So it's this place with the crazy heads. Way down here in the southeast, it's near Göbekli Tepe, actually. And walking up to it's out in the middle of nowhere, right? And it's quite high. It's like the highest mountain all around. And I remember it's just, as you're walking up to it, it's this giant pyramid of these stones that are just like a fist size. Like, how did all of these stones get there? Just piled up, piled and piled and piled. And Owner Baskin, he actually says in the 1700s, they went to dig up the area, but it was impossible due to all the small stones. And I know what he's talking about immediately. It's like these stones are incredibly small, but there's like billions of them. I don't know. There's a lot. And so supposedly the beings told Yalcin to go there. And Yalcin thinks maybe the ship would be activated or something, because there's a giant spacecraft under Mount Nemrut, but he hasn't had a chance yet due to basically financial issues. It's difficult to get out east. Everything's very expensive in Turkey right now. But yeah, see, this is like, I don't know, 3 feet tall. And they have these statues just sitting there. Again, there's nothing around here. It's out in the literal middle of nowhere. So that's pretty amazing. So curious what'll happen to that. And I hope he goes. Okay, does Yalcin have advice for anyone who wants to make contact or capture their own video? So they ask Yalcin. He says, faith is important. None is important. Faith is critical. Keep your heart clean and have faith, and they will contact you. He wants to share his experiences with the people, like Congress, before he dies. Then they have a question, according to Mick West, is, what did you see when you zoomed in, particularly on the 2007 video? So people have speculated that in here is like beings that you can see. I stabilized the video. I couldn't see them moving around or anything. And they said, did you see the beings as well, like through your eyes, through the viewfinder? And again, he gives a long answer. I'm not sure this is really well translated, but he basically says that, yes, those were the beings. And he says there was a connection between him and the beings. And so he believes that that is the crew and those are the pilots that we're seeing. And then he goes on, basically says, among 8 billion people worldwide, why would he be chosen to take the best videos? And he thinks he was chosen to give the evidence to the world. Then they asked, what was the location he was filming from? And I think I found it in this video. I think that was the location, at least one of them. He said right on the seaside. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's right on the beach. And so I think that's where he was actually filming from. But he said, yeah, he was at the beach on the seaside when he heard an explosion, and then in a hypnosis state, he turned toward the objects to film. That's how he get kind of cued out. Okay, in 2009, Hakan Doğan at a conference interviewed him, and he said during the interview, went into a hypnosis session and grabbed his camera and ran out. All the people followed him, along with 9 people, and they said they can corroborate it. They corroborated, there's the craft, we see it, and he videoed it. So Jimmy at UAPFiles said he has another witness who can say, yeah, he was one of these people, basically, that can corroborate one of Yalcin's sightings. Interesting question here. They asked, does Yalcin know Lou Elizondo and his claims? And no, he hasn't heard of Lou Elizondo. I will say, when I was in Turkey, yeah, it's amazing. The news is totally different. It's totally reversed. Like, everything you can imagine is completely reversed. Like imagine Israel and Palestine, they literally reverse. It's amazing. So it's completely different there. I met a lot of people, conscripts, who had never heard of Adolf Hitler, actually, when I lived there. They ask, has he had any 3-letter agencies approach him for the footage? Again, I think this was kind of lost in translation, but ultimately, definitely. He said many people have seen the footage and can corroborate the claims. Then he said he believes these beings are taking energy from lightning and also from aircraft exhaust. Something from aircraft, what they're putting out. So he thinks they are following planes to get energy. So if you want to see UAPs, look for planes and around lightning, I guess. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the original videotape. It was lost. Yalcin believes there are hundreds of colonies on the moon's dark side. Under hypnosis, Yalcin said the being showed him humans going to Mars in the next 100 years. He said that will happen, but he said we should be wary of bad ETs, basically the Orion ETs on the dark side of the moon. There are still guardians there, etc. But he said the moon is very important and kind of we're not supposed to go there, I guess. Okay. And then he said he's moving, so he'll be able to answer questions after 15 August. And then he gives his amazing claim for what could be a sighting. And this, if we look to the left here, that's the moon. Okay. So he's able to actually track where the moon is. And then you'll see in a little bit, he will zoom in back onto the craft. So identify where the moon is, and you can track it to this time and date. And now you can, what I believe, prove that it's above the horizon more than what could be a cruise ship or something across the way. So I think that's the strongest evidence, is when he gets this moon in the shot and then he zooms in to the actual craft. I think that's amazing. Okay, and getting to his final message, right? So Yalcin said during the interview, he got a message to watch out for 2 large craft visiting Peru, Chile, Brazil, or the northern part of New Mexico area by the end of this month. And then he clarified, saying that the metal objects will be seen on 28 July and between 15 to 20 August. And the observers will see a giant spacecraft in cloudy weather. If this does happen, he wants to be remembered. That's amazing. He's like calling it out. Conor Baskin finishes by basically saying that he has called him before. Yalcin's called him before and said, hey, there's going to be an earthquake. And he said there was earthquakes. Supposedly he can foresee future events. So here he's being told 28 July, get up for it. And between 15 to 20 August, there would be 2 large spacecraft seen in the sky. And he mentions a lot of places. Is it just they're not sure? So amazing predictions. I mean, that's just amazing footage. Look at that footage. The only argument I can understand is that it's totally hoaxed, that he's actually putting up fake objects and then on purpose filming them. But you have so many witnesses to corroborate. This is where he zooms in. Those are supposedly the beings in there. So amazing break in the case. Thanks so much to Jimmy. Super excited. Hopefully my going there poked something, the bee's nest, and made something happen, or if anything, turned people on to go and track it down, which I think is the best part of doing science and researching online. The YouTube, the internet is a great place to do science, right? They all talk about peer review. Eric Weinstein said in his interview on Joe Rogan that peer review process is broken and it can be limited, especially by government agencies, etc. But what about this? Just citizen research. So can't wait to see future footage, and check out UAP Studies podcast. Link in the description. He's going to have more witnesses coming on this case. I'll definitely be watching. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button. It really helps and it's free. Consider subscribing to get future notifications of when I release videos. And you might like this video. If you want to support the channel, join these great people over here. Get exclusive bonus content. Then click this button here, patreon.com/chrislehto, or become a YouTube member. If you want to continue the discussion, go to UAP Society Discord. Links are all in the description. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.